things. I'm Nicole. I direct the Moving Images department, which is covers sort of video. We do live webcasting, which is something that not many people do, and there are many reasons why they don't do it. But the exploratorium. Is everyone pretty familiar with the exploratorium? I'll just give you a really quick. Started in 1968, so we're 40 years old. We were really early in the web world to build a website. Our website is something like 19,000 or 20,000 pages now. I'm not even really sure. It changes all the time. We have a big staff of the whole museum, but our web elements are much, much smaller, and so everybody's always doing 8 billion different projects at the same time, constantly. We're currently working on a redesign. This is a very old, now, what do we call it, 70s style with a 90s look or something. I don't know, we made up all these jokes about it. But anyway, to cover our sort of, the basic premise of the exploratorium, the way we started was to make the world understandable in any way that we could. So everything about the exploratorium is sort of, the idea is to be as transparent as possible. That's why when you come in, the machine shop is wide open so that people can see that we build our exhibits on site. And a lot of the offices have the windows open, and our webcast studio is out on the floor. You couldn't pick a worse place to try to do, video work, but it helps our public understand that we do most of our work in-house. We're an R&D facility. So, and I say that as a preface just because all of our social media experiment, everything we do is an experiment, basically. And everything we try, and we take the failures and successes and gather information from both. So even things that we find don't work, we learn from that. So it's a big part of how we think about things in general. So even if it's a public program on the floor, total failure, or something on the web, total failure, we try to learn from it. And different parts of the exploratorium, as you probably most of you know, it's an interactive science museum, so everything that we try to do, we try to make interactive. And things on our website, we've had varying degrees of interactivity from the very beginning. So some of our exhibitry is there's online versions. We had a video department very early on, so we were putting videos on the web before YouTube and before Google and all that stuff. And we had, we have a large sort of archive, which we're trying to struggle with how to figure out all of that stuff. But the reason I mentioned the archive is that we've just started a new media portal, which is still in the beta phases. So if you go to Expo TV, Alex. So Expo TV is kind of our in-between media portal at the moment, and it has lots of different kinds of media. The search engine is still, the code's all still being worked out. We have a lot of bugs in the system, but we wanted to get it started because you have these enormous lists, and that's a problem with the media. But Expo TV gives you a sense of some of the things that we're doing. So like we have upcoming live webcasts on the one side here. And right now we're doing a project that we've been doing for 2 years called iStories, which was a big NSF grant, where we train scientists who go out into the field. We train them to be media producers, and then they go out in the field and they Twitter and they blog and they make videos and they make podcasts and they do audio dispatches and they do sound slides and they put all these things onto the iStories site, which maybe we should show the folks. Because iStories is a current project, so it's kind of utilizing all of the social media at the moment. But I'll just preface this by saying that we started a MySpace page a long time ago, and all of these things kind of just happen organically. Someone's like, hey, we should have a Facebook page. So someone starts doing one, and probably the hardest thing is trying to kind of keep some level of control of what's going out there. And I should probably also say that for a very long time, all of our work for the website was to drive people back to the site itself. So content that we put out in the world was geared towards driving people back towards our website. Now, of course, the world is different, so we're trying to utilize the platforms to put the content everywhere. And I should also say that the exploratorium has always been open source, always. We gave away everything for free, always. No branding, no marketing, that was part of its mission. That, of course, has changed as well in the new world because people steal stuff and, you know, use stuff. And some of that is totally fine for us, and sometimes it isn't. And I'll just give you a really funny example. We recently did a big eclipse. We do a live webcast of solar eclipse. We went to China in August, right before the Olympics. It was a huge ordeal getting a crew. It was out in the western part of China, very remote location. None of the news crews got permission to go out there. Normally all the big news agencies go. We did this kind of under the radar thing, managed to pull it off. It was kind of a miracle. But we partnered with NASA on that project, and we have for years. Now we didn't bug our webcast. We didn't put a watermark on there. So the next day, as soon as the webcast was over, sorry, I'm jumping subjects a little bit, but the next day there were hundreds of YouTube videos of our broadcast that people had stolen from NASA TV and all these other places and stuff on YouTube. And some of that's okay. I mean, part of that we encourage because, you know, it does create dialogue, but we are looking at now perhaps watermarking all of our video. It's sort of, again, it's a sea change thing for us because we used to just put everything out there. So we have a YouTube page, we have a Facebook page, we do Twitter, we have Flickr, and all of these things are embedded in our website as well as accounts. And I loved your question about the nonprofit. I didn't know that, so I learned something tonight. The nonprofit account versus we started a director's account several years ago, or a couple years ago, and you know, one of the biggest challenges we found with social media is having the people dedicated to doing the outreach. That's the biggest problem for us. Right now, Alex is the man. That's all we've got. And it's really hard to, because you have to, it's a person out there, right? The person as an institution, interacting with people, who's monitoring the comments on all of our various pages, who's keeping track of what's being said. I sat on a panel last year on a YouTube panel, and it was all museums from around the country. So it was everything from people from the Smithsonian to the San Jose Museum of Art. It was a bunch of different people. And the New York MoMA guy did a hilarious presentation. This was for people who are in the museum community on the web. That was the conference. And anyway, he started talking about how they get all these crazy comments like, "This is the gayest thing I've ever seen." You know, like that's the kind of comments you get on your YouTube page. So writing back, who's deciding what's okay to have up there, what's not okay? How much institutional knowledge do they have? Alex has only been with us for a short time. I've been at the museum for a really long time. So how do you decide who that person is out in the social media world? That's a big challenge for us. So right now we're doing, as I said, ice stories. So on YouTube we put up a little our test with Antarctica yesterday or 2 days ago. When we do our webcast, we do the live satellite uplink. So it's fraught with peril, technically, and always challenging. And so we try to, as I said, make everything transparent. So when we're out on the floor, or as much as we can on the web, we like to try to talk to people about what we're doing and why we're doing it and what's important about it. And varying degrees of success, I would say, in terms of feedback. But we've always had, another interesting example I thought was that when we did our Eclipse webcast in August, we had a comments page that you could write in on. And one of the things that warmed my heart the most was that people from all over the world watched our webcast because they can't see the solar eclipse because it's only in a small band over China and Mongolia, basically were the two places, and a little tiny bit of Russia. So, but people from all over the rest of the world watched the webcast and wrote in, and that's really exciting when you're like, and it's interesting to me too to see, for instance, that because that webcast and that solar eclipse was in Asia, a lot of our commentary was from Asia. When we did it 2 years ago in Turkey, a lot of our commentary was from Europe. You know, so that's also interesting to see where the audience is and who's watching these things. So yeah, I guess a big part of what's interesting to us is that all of these new social media things give us new platforms.